point, I felt like everything had gone wrong. I'd reached burnout because I was a failure and I should give up. Everything's terrible. And who do I think I am being an entrepreneur? All of these negative thoughts. And it's not until I started to listen to what I'd previously classed as woo-woo, I learned like these thoughts that I'm having aren't real. Everyone, successful entrepreneurs, they all have the same thoughts that I'm having. It's not that, something's broken with me, part of the entrepreneurial journey.
This is the Born to be Brilliant podcast, helping you harness the habits and unlock the tools to bring you more meaning, vibrance, and the personal power to help you shine like the diamond you are. Welcome to another episode, everyone. I'm joined in the studio today by the magnificent Melissa Lewis. Melissa's come to us to talk to us all about why we often, as high performers and achievers, we often make bad decisions, particularly when we're under pressure, when we're overwhelmed. We're going to delve into all of the things. Melissa, a massive welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Lovely to be here. Yes.
Such a pleasure. I'm really looking forward to getting into this with you and picking your brains and learning from you today. We're here to have like an honest conversation about what it's all about. So before we get stuck in, can you just share a little bit with our listeners about your background and what got you into this kind of work?
Yeah, so my background was originally HR. So I was in HR, done a whole college, university, and then I started saving when I was 16, didn't really know what I was saving for. So, bought my first car, bought my second car. And then when I was 25, I was in a relationship at the time. I'd had a bit of money saved and I felt like, okay, I've got a bit of money saved. I'm in a relationship. And I spoke to my now ex about buying a place together. And he said, no, he wasn't ready. So that was absolutely fine. So I went off and I bought my property for myself at the age of 26. And then I kind of felt like, so I've always been a goal setter. So when I was 20, I said to myself, by the time I'm 30, I want to be a HR officer or a senior HR officer or a HR manager. Again, at the same time, I was 26, I was a senior HR officer, bought my flat. And I felt like, do you know what? I've achieved the goal that I'd originally set out. So I'm going to go into property, and literally it was that. So yeah.
I love that. Not a bad thing to go into, and also getting started young is so good. I, like you, bought property when I was quite young, and I think it was I had the opportunity. A deposit of I think around £5,000 was all I needed back then, and it was an incredible time, but I wish I knew then what I came to learn years later, because that would have still been working for me now had I understood what I actually had in the palm of my hands. But I didn't understand it. I was a young, 20-something with a parental bereavement that I was carrying. And so just being a little like, life is for living, and didn't think about this bigger picture that now I'm like, if I had done this and this and this, like that would literally now, what that would be doing for me now would be incredible. So I've made a point of talking to my kids about this. And I think my eldest, back when he was only 10 and I explained the story of this, he immediately twigged like, okay, so you do this and then this, and he started putting those pieces together. And I thought, you know what, I may not have got it quite like I should have, maybe could have, but I've learned from that and I can pass that wisdom on. But I have a feeling you've got some experience here as well, and are going to share a bit of this with us today. So talk to me about then this just link then from HR, property. You had the property understanding from a young age, and what that taught you and what that kind of gave you that's brought you like up to where you are now with seeing what you see in entrepreneurs, which is so right.
Yeah, so to be fair, if I was to go back, I didn't know that I was an entrepreneur at that point. I think I felt like, well, I've set this goal for myself. I've achieved it a little bit early. And the 26-year-old me felt like I don't know many people, I didn't have many friends, kind of cousins, family members buying properties at such a young age. So I kind of felt like, I'm going to kind of do something different. And I guess in all honesty, it's been like a one step at a time. So I didn't even know how to get started into it. So kind of like my way in was joining an online estate agency franchise. So that's more of, where I learned about sales and lettings and stuff like that. But just to kind of go back to my mindset then, I literally was just, setting one goal after another and felt like, okay, I've almost ticked the HR box now.
Yeah.
And yeah, was kind of ready to move on.
What was that like, having the franchise model?
Oh, do you know what? I'm honestly so glad that I saw it early and I experienced it early,
Yeah.
because since then you do a lot of business networking, and I've encountered many franchise owners in lots of different kind of industries, not just property. And the problems and issues that I was seeing in the kind of early days of being part of a franchise, people kind of still battle through it many years to come. Some people do make a success. So, this is absolute hats off to people who do make their franchise work. But I think what happened with me is I felt like at the time I'd found a gap in the market. So just to kind of touch on that quickly,
Yeah.
I was meeting investors who, it's a online estate agency model, they don't just focus on investors. So as I was meeting investors and they were saying, Melissa, this is how you work out, an investment property, this is how you work out the yield and the return on investment, this is our criteria. I initially set up my company for them because I thought, I found a gap in the market, and I'm going to kind of leave the franchise and leave that comfortability and kind of set a little gap for myself. But the thing with life is you have to go down the road to learn. And again, you kind of tried, for me, I tried the franchise model, saw the pros, saw the cons, thought, great, I'm going to go and do, something completely by myself. But I didn't know any of the pros and cons until I started down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always easy to think the grass is greener, isn't it? Like, I think that we've all been there, I'm sure. And if you haven't been there yet, maybe one day you will, to those listening. But you think the grass is greener. It always looks like that there's, that way is going to be easier. And I think nothing's necessarily easier. There's just different types of challenges, and it's which challenges you feel most equipped to tackle. But it's certainly no walk in the park going any which way. Yeah, one of my businesses is a franchise that I'm franchisor of, and I think that different franchises are different depending on who they're for. Usually it's an investor that buys a McDonald's franchise, but when it's a franchise that's something that is more delivered by the business owner, like an owner operator, I've come to learn that that's more, as a franchisor, you're selling more B2C rather than B2B, and it's a completely different mindset. And so whilst you are selling effectively a business in a box, the whole look, we've got all the systems, processes, tried and tested, done things, here you go, lift it, shift it, you do it. I think that can, in the consumer world, that can look a very attractive opportunity, but I think it can be underestimated how much work you do still have to do, and it seems like it's all on a plate, and actually it's really, really not. And I've seen this in multiple industries where it's a little grey whether it's B2C or B2B model, and there's still a lot of work to do. So I don't think there's a better or worse or easier or not easier. I think it depends on who you are and what you're looking for. I think that's the key. So you were somebody who could see a way, and you had the ambition and the drive to go it alone and do something yourself your way, and good for you. And you learned along the way.
Yeah, but can I just say, I didn't know at the time. Because sometimes when I speak to friends and stuff and people think, wow, okay, you had the drive, Melissa, you had the ambition. Well, actually, it's come from like it's step at a time. It's trying
Yeah.
this. Okay, that doesn't work. Okay, now I've got to try this. For anyone who, as you've said, who is listening and is thinking, oh gosh, what's my next step? Or, is looking at different options and is thinking, right, what option should I take? Sometimes the answer is just going down the road, trying the franchise, seeing what it's like, because you don't always know until you start down the road, really. Yeah.
Definitely. And for some people, it's brilliant. They don't want to go solo. They don't want to figure it all out. The figuring out's been done. but the work's still got to be done. And so I think, yeah, if you fully understand it, I would say 21, ask loads of questions, make sure you know all the ins and outs. Nothing is easy. And as long as you don't expect it to be, then you'll be fine in whatever you do. So you saw this like gap in the market. You went after the investor model. Like, talk to me
Yeah.
about how that went for you and what you learned.
Yeah. So I remember initially being really excited because, as I said, investors are coming to me. I
Yeah.
felt like, oh my goodness. So, this is a real opportunity. So I was just serving those people. I think it was like 3 or 4 gentlemen who was just coming to me just for this particular set of properties, in a particular part of Essex. And I remember thinking, right, I need to expand my customer base. So I went online and I found like local networking events, like property networking events, and I thought, oh, brilliant! This is where I go to meet more investors. And as I turned up, speaking to people, and I said, people were asking me what I'd done, and I told them about the franchise, and I said, but now this is what I'm doing, and people were saying, oh, deal sourcing, and I was like, what? And then, I was like, I don't know, I was like, oh yeah, not really knowing what that person meant. Spoke to the next person, and they said, oh, that's deal packaging. And long story short, I came to find out that what I was doing was called deal sourcing or deal packaging. And it's something that's taught on property education courses, something that I didn't know anything about because I literally just started in property. I didn't know how other people started in property. And I felt like a right idiot because I walked into the room thinking I'd found a gap in the market and this is it, I'm going to, have a nice little select group of investors and blah, 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 blah. And actually, I felt like a small fish because I was now in a room of people who had been on the training courses, and there was, a ton of people that were saying, oh, yeah, I do this. And oh, I do this alongside my job. And I remember that evening panicking and realizing again, I'm going to need to, if I'm deciding that I'm being this entrepreneurial person and I'm creating income for myself, I've now found out that I haven't got this magical answer. I've not got this niche business, and actually it's like widely promoted as a training strategy thing. I'm going to need to do something else. So that was like so the next phase was I went back to all like people that I'd encountered in my whole time in property. So previous clients, called round, went to more networking events, started to build like a list of people who wanted property services. So then I was doing like viewings, inventories, inspections, etc., etc. And then I hit my first kind of business burnout. So I guess it was my first lesson in business. So money. When you start a business, you're thinking, oh, I need to make money. With the property sourcing for investors, now I'd known that this thing, it's like it knocked my confidence a little bit. The 4 gentlemen that I'd started off with, one moved abroad, one stopped buying property, everything kind of changed. So then I was like, okay, so I started just saying yes to all bookings. So whatever property services landlords needed. So I was doing everything from inventories, inspections. If they needed paperwork signed, I felt scared to say no to any booking because each booking was a low price. A viewing, how much do you get paid for a viewing? 20, 30 pounds. And in inventory, okay, I might get £100 depending on the size of the property. But I then went from like thinking, okay, I could make a certain amount by selling properties per month to now feeling like I need to book X amount of appointments per week to even be able to pay the bills. And I had no idea what burnout was until I got there. And there was like a day where I just couldn't get out of bed. And I was saying to myself, look, Melissa, if you want to pay your mortgage, if you want to pay your bills, if you want to be able to put petrol in your car, you need to get up and go to these appointments. The implication of not going to these appointments today is, one, you still have to speak to people. You can't just put the blanket over your head. You've still got to contact people, provide a reason or an excuse, rebook in for another time.
Tough, isn't it? Yeah, I get it. I think so many people will resonate with the push and push and push. And when it's interesting you said money, the first and foremost thing, because the old adage of like money doesn't buy happiness, it doesn't ultimately, but it certainly buys a level of freedom and security. And so I think until you're out of survival mode, as in you can cover the necessary costs that you're signed up for, and you can cover your overheads and whatever, until you're there, you're in survival mode. And when you're in survival, and that's different for everyone, I appreciate that, but when you're in survival mode, it is about the money, and it does buy a certain level of peace and stress-free living once you get to a certain level. After that, that's where, positive psychology shows that beyond that, it doesn't actually make a difference ultimately, which is why you have miserable billionaires. But the point is, in those early stages, most people, especially if you go out on your own, the buck stops with you. Nobody's paying you a wage, like, unless you go and literally make it happen. And I think so many people will resonate with this because it's a roller coaster. You don't necessarily know where your next bit of pay is coming from, and it can be exhausting. And then that's self-perpetuating because your mind and body isn't taking the best care of itself, and you don't feel good, so you're stressed, so you're more exhausted, and so it goes on and on and on. Like,
And can I just add to that? So
yeah,
I thought that I could get further along from a place of anger. And this is something that I even have to remind myself, even now, if I'm angry and so at the time, I was thinking, okay, I know I need to have these amount of inventories or sell this amount of properties per month to make the minimum. So I was in a state of hope. So I don't know if anyone else is listening and is thinking, okay, I know I need to make this amount of, have these amount of appointments or whatever it is per month. This is the minimum. If I don't hit it, danger. If I hit it, great.
yeah,
And I was in that place for so long, living in hope. But what I learned, and that would make me angry because then I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like I just need to get to this. And I would feel angry and frustrated that I was in this point, angry and frustrated that I'm not moving forward. But the thing that pushes you forward is making a change. So
mm-hmm.
it's not until I looked at my services and, what I was doing day to day, that I was able to even change anything. But at that time, I wasn't even thinking about changing anything. I was just thinking, I know I need to hit the minimum per month, so I'm just going to do that. Yeah.
So do you think then it was so when you say about like making that change, and I guess that change can come in lots of different ways, but you're saying that where you were, it was keep plugging away at the same thing that because just push harder, when actually you realize, no, it's changed something. Was there a particular type of thing you felt like you had to change? Like, was it change your strategy, change your thinking, change your implementation, or all of it?
Yeah. So everything had to change,
Yeah,
mindset and strategy. So mindset had to change because I was, it's like there's a transitionary period when you kind of leave full-time work to then being self-employed. You're still in this mindset of like like kind of structure, like set amounts, set days, set hours.
and then you sort of you create your structure. You create a structure for yourself to some extent,
Yes.
and
Yes.
then
So
yeah, carry on.
yeah, so it was literally going through that and seeing, okay, it's not working. I needed to, yes, change my mindset, but literally change the structure because,
Yeah,
again, if I need to physically be in each appointment, inventories would, I would be booked for an inventory for 2 inventories, for example. So just to explain what an inventory is, it's where you just go through and look at the condition of the property and you fill out a report on everything, marks on the wall, wooden floors, the condition internally and externally.
yeah.
And, appointments would run over. I would end up missing like the afternoon appointment. And I think on reflection now, I don't know why I plugged away for so long. I think I just thought that kind of like living in hope, like, oh, one day it's going to be different, or one day it's going to be
Yeah,
like, it's going to change, or one day I'm going to meet a client that has all of the properties all within a 5-mile radius. So then I don't have to do all of this driving. Like I was just living in this one day and hope thing that's all the way in the future. And it's
yeah.
not until I thought, right, this strategy isn't working. What other strategies can I do? What are my skills?
Hmm.
What else can I offer?
Yeah,
That's when things changed.
I love that, and I think that is so relevant in so many like circumstances. So some people get to that point and they just throw everything away and go, it doesn't work, it's not working, I'm not feeling good, I'm not getting the results I wanted, I'm done. So they quit, or they throw stuff away, or they, you know, yeah, like just
Yeah.
wrap it all up. But
Yeah.
I think sometimes that is okay. Like sometimes it is okay to call it a day when you're like, actually, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe, you know, what needs to change and what needs to happen, is that in my control? Because if it isn't, gonna be difficult. If it is in your control, are you prepared to do it, or learn the skill to do it, or get the resources to do it? So I think there's a lot of sort of self-reflection in all of that. And sometimes it can be like, okay, well, I can see what needs to change. I know that I can control it, but it's going to take this, this, and this from me. And I don't want that. And that's okay too, to realize that, because sometimes we keep doing things out of obligation or because we started it. And it's like, it's okay to think, you know, to realize it's not the path for you. But I think that it is important to do all of that kind of, that sort of whole 360 check before just going, well, this isn't working, game over.
Yeah, that's it.
So what did you do with that? Like when you realized something, you know, you said like lots had to change, like what was next?
So mindset and but business offering.
Mm-hmm.
Mindset, first of all, I'd been hearing from other people, you know, other entrepreneurs that were more established about morning routines. You hear morning routines, gratitude jar, journaling,
Yeah.
affirmations. I thought, what is this woo-woo nonsense
Yeah.
that people keep talking about? But oh my goodness, it's life-changing. It's it's having a routine, and it's listening to all of the self-development stuff
Yes.
that enabled me to pull myself out of a dark spot. So at that point, I felt like everything had gone wrong. I'd reached burnout because I was a failure and I should give up, and everything's terrible. And who dare I? Who do I think I am being an entrepreneur? How dare I try to do something other than having a job? I'm the worst person. Like, I've all of these negative thoughts. And it's not until I started to listen to what I'd previously classed as woo woo, I
Mm-hmm.
learned like, oh, this is it, these thoughts that I'm having aren't real. A. B. Everyone that's come before me, you know, successful entrepreneurs, owners, wealthy people, they all have the same thoughts that I'm having. So it's not that, you know, something's broken with me. This is part of the challenge. This is part of the entrepreneurial journey. So I've tried lots of different routines over the years. Miracle Morning was the thing that actually pulled me out, which I can talk about further, you know, in a second. And the second kind of overall change was, as I say, business strategy. So what I looked at is that everything work, every service that I was offering required me. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the viewings required me to be physically in the properties. Working with investors, of course, they're speaking to me. They want me, you know, they're meeting with me. I'm going to the viewings with them. I'm speaking to their solicitors. Everything is very Melissa heavy.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, you know, what could I do within the business that would generate stable monthly income?
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a little bit of money saved, and I looked at having HMOs. So
Yeah.
we rent the full building and then sub rent the rooms out. So yeah, so that was like my goal at the time. We built at the time like a portfolio of 5. We got to 5 properties, but it was that having that monthly income that allowed me to relax. Hadn't
Yeah.
thought about it before then. You know, when you start a business and you have an idea of what you're going to do, and you know, I started off thinking I'm just focusing on investors,
Yeah.
but now you know you've got to take bends and turns and stuff like that. And the moment that I got our first property and saw, okay, this means, you know, we're cash flowing. It's
Yeah.
stable. It's not relying on me and my legs, me and my car to physically be in the property. So yeah, that's what gave me the breathing space.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love the fact that you said it's all of the things, isn't it? The mindset aspects and the personal development. Working on you was a key part. And probably through that, you identified that actually a strategy and having some form of generating income without it relying on you. And I think that that's actually really missed in entrepreneurship, especially since we've gone online. Because in the real world, you have to put one foot in front of the other even to move from the front door, right? But online, you don't really have to do anything. And so, in the metaphorical sense, you don't have to move a lot. And I think the expectation, because everyone looks at everyone else online, the expectation is that it, you just post some stuff and you do this and that and it just happens, and it really doesn't. But what happens in situations like yours and in many solo run businesses or small teams is the person becomes a fundamental factor in the business. It can't run without them, and therefore it's not really a business, it's just self-employed. And that's worse than being employed, because you can't guarantee the paycheck either, and you don't get any benefits or sick leave. So what were we thinking when we all started off that way? But I think it's okay starting off that way, and I think you can learn a lot like that. But I know one of my early goals was, right, I'm going to start doing this. But I remember one summer when my kids were really little, and I remember I was with my mum on a day out, and I said, by next summer holidays, this business is going to run without me. And I did, because I just set the intention. That was all. I just said, yeah, this, I was managing okay, but I was like, this needs to completely run without me. I want next summer, I just want to make sure that I'm not on a day out, but still kind of picking up the phone here and there. Blessed that I could take it with me and be with my kids, but I wanted to not have that. And and she's the one that reminded me of that. She said, you said by next summer you would do this, and look, you have. And I thought, oh yeah, I did, didn't and it's powerful when you set an intention, because you start making decisions that align with that, which is something I want to tap into with you, because I know that's something you talk about with decision making and making better decisions from a better place.
Yes.
When we're not all overwhelmed and stressed out.
Yeah.
And do you see like it as a common thing then with entrepreneurs, like getting stuck with that?
Yeah, I think because it can be really easy to get stuck in a place of overwhelm. I used to get caught in that place a lot before, but now it's all about kind of reprioritizing and knowing when the best time to make a decision is. So I think now I play to my strengths a little bit more. I know that I'm better for certain things during the day. If I'm speaking on a podcast, speaking to people, I'm best sort of first thing in the afternoon. But I didn't used to know stuff like this before. And I would just think that, I'd look at what I had to do on that day or that week and just think, it all needs to be done yesterday, it all needs to be done 10 minutes ago. And I had no way of prioritizing and decision making itself, and thinking about and strategizing, thinking about your next move for the business and stuff like that. It can't be done, or for me anyway, it can't be done as part of the work day. So I now I kind of block my time and days according to what needs to be thought about, what I need to, what needs to be done, what needs to be worked on, what needs to be thought about, and not just, looking at everything in one pot, which is kind of how you get overwhelmed, really. It's just tying, you throw everything into one pot and then look at the pot and think, oh my goodness, that's so many things. And that's what I do.
Completely agree. It's that endless to-do list that never feels like it gets shorter, because every time you tick off something, you add 3 more things. And when it is a list, it's unscheduled, which means it all feels equally urgent, like you say, and that gives you that feeling of overwhelm. And I love that you're doing that, like time blocking, and I do the same. And something I've had to teach myself is I struggled with time blocking when I'd map out my diary, I'd block in all the things, I'd do the pre-planning, it'd look great. I'd even work in maybe a break if I was being kind to myself. And then what would happen is I wouldn't stick to it, because like you said, things like, oh, I'm supposed to be writing this thing, but I'm not feeling like writing, or I don't feel like shooting a video right now, or whatever it might be. And if you're not in the right space for it, and then I would procrastinate. Or if you're like, I need to do this thing, but I haven't actually thought about how. And when we don't know how to do something, we avoid it. And so there'd be that, or interruptions, the unplanned interruptions that come in. And I wouldn't build in any white space. So I would then be forever behind on my schedule, creating this sense of failure, sense of I'm not enough, I'm not achieving enough, I'm falling behind, I'm behind on my work, I can't fit it all in. Like that sense of like constant, like you feels like even saying it, I'm like, oh, I can feel that in my body. Like it's horrible. And when you time block in a way that you're more like kind to yourself and more flexible. So first of all, identifying, like you said, when do you do what best? There's certain things I definitely do best in the morning. So I will put that in there early in my diary because I know it will get done then. And things that I'm like, oh, that I can do that more. Some things I know I need to do at my desk. Some things I can do remotely. So I'll go and work from somewhere else or be somewhere else. And I think structuring your week with that insight, but also working in flexibilities. So I put tasks and I'll be like, I'm going to move that one to there
Yeah.
because this is more important, and just being okay with that. Like,
Can I just say how
yeah,
important that is, the
yeah,
flexibility, because it took me a while to learn that myself when I first started time blocking. So I guess it's similar to you. I was really rigid and I felt like, right, I need to stop doing this thing now because I've said that this thing starts at 11, when really now, oh my goodness, it's flexible blocks. If that thing doesn't work in today, it works tomorrow.
yeah,
Perfect. It'll go in then. And
yeah,
again, if I get distracted, because I do get distracted, the phone rings, someone is at the door, things happen all the time. But if
happens,
I
yeah,
remember my 2 to 3 core tasks for that day,
yeah,
and I'm guessing it's the same for you, as long as you
yeah.
know these are the core things that need to be done today, no matter what, then anything else that happens, is, good,
It just
bad,
is,
or
yeah.
but it just means the core things still get done and you're still moving forward as well.
Definitely. And I think you can apply that to the day and the week and the month as well. Like, oh God, if I find like, okay, this has taken me way longer than I allowed for it, this other thing's going to have to get bumped somewhere else. But then I'll look at the week and go, what absolutely needs to stay in this week? And then sometimes I've looked at something and gone, oh, do you know what? That is really not urgent. I'm going to push that out to next week. And I just will. So I'm regularly moving things, but instead of it being a to-do list, they're tasks in my calendar, so I can drag and drop them and
Yeah.
like a Tetris game, and just sort of like dig them about, but in a
Yeah,
way, like, isn't that why we start our own businesses? So we can have that flexibility in the first place. So I think that's a really important lesson, because I think a lot of people, probably like you and I, have felt like, okay, you either have no plan and nothing happens, or you go and create a good plan and then it's too rigid and you can't stick to it and that feels rubbish. And you feel like there's no solution. But actually, this flexible time blocking is a great way of managing it, isn't it? And it relieves the overwhelm.
definitely.
And if you have kids and your school calls and your day gets like, I mean, I think and I don't want to be stereotypical here. I'm sure there are scenarios where it's the dads, but I know a lot of mums who are like, husbands haven't got to do this, but I do. And it's like you drop everything and change everything because to accommodate the family needs. But if you structure so that you can, I think, well, instead of being annoyed about it, I go, well, aren't I lucky that I've built something that means I can? And that's just shifting the perspective.
It also shows how much work you've done on your mindset, because even to get to that point, it takes a while. It took me a while to even be okay with, because you beat yourself up. I don't know
Yeah,
if it's, why these things happen, but you're always your worst critic. You're always thinking, okay, before you've figured it out, yeah, you are quite self-critical. You can be self-critical, but it takes some learning to get to a point of, do you know what? This is my business. This is how I want it to run. I'm making time for it when I can make time for it, kind of thing, flexibly, not be putting too much pressure on yourself if you haven't got absolutely everything done on that particular day. Just being kind to yourself, really. So, yeah,
definitely. I think with that as well, that's just made me think how we do this in such a way that, and put all this pressure on. And when we do that, and especially if we are looking at cash flow and thinking, okay, need to make some more money, need to get some more into the bank because it's on us, we're, I think, energetically coming from a real tight place, like very constricted. And with that, I think, again, I'm just sort of talking physiology, but think of it however you like, but I think of it as being tight, constricted, head down, blinkered, very like mechanical. Not only does that not feel good and creates more stress in the body and everything, but I think that when that happens, you can think of this as woo-woo or just logistically, either way. But I do think less opportunity comes your way and you almost repel and make it harder for yourself. And I think that if you want to be logistic, that's purely because when you are more calm and relaxed, you're more open, you see more opportunities, the things that are coming in front of you, when you're like head down and tight and constricted, you don't even spot the stuff. You don't even hear that message that somebody said to you, or someone that's listening to this podcast while driving or on the school run that's got 1,000 things in their head and they're stressed out. They're not really going to be taking in the golden nuggets, but somebody who's calm and relaxed and absorbing like a sponge is going to pick something up that's going to spark an idea of their own that's going to take them off on a fabulous trajectory. So I think the knock-on effect of just the smallest things, when we can get ourselves in that state, a state of calm, of receptiveness, of openness, like that's when good things come our way. And it's not magical, mystical, but it depends how you want to see it, really, doesn't it? It's just gonna happen. What's now and next for Melissa in your world? What are you up to at the moment? Where do you see things going?
Yeah. So last year, a lot of my focus was helping people sell their properties off market. And through that, I had loads of conversations with people who had bought properties that they didn't even know how to assess, whether a property is even profitable. So this year, my focus has been working with people who want to get into property, want to get their property, their investment property, but don't know how to work out profitability. So I've got an auntie who she got divorced, I think it's about 15 years ago now. And she bought 2 properties for my 2 cousins, her 2 daughters. But she didn't realize, she just looked at what she had, her pot of money at the time.
Yeah.
And she didn't think about whether the properties would make money, whether it would be profitable. So I've had lots of conversations with her over the past few months about, I guess, first of all, her regret in buying, but just kind of getting an understanding of what was she wanting to achieve and kind of what she's going to do now, really. So, my goal at the moment is purely just working with people, wanting to get investment properties and specifically flips and buy-to-lets.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. I think it's a great place for people, especially entrepreneurs so I am one, and I work closely with a lot of purpose-led entrepreneurs. So, we've got something in us that we want to bring to the world, and it is very much a me thing, a them thing. And like it's not like buying a business that you just staff out and sit back and invest in. But I think when you have that kind of business, it's okay to have it, but you need to asset stack other things that then fund your life, so that, like you were saying, it doesn't all rely upon you every single day and you can step away. My goal is always, as a lot of people's I'm sure is I want to know that what I do is purely on my terms and because I want to. Like, if I never had to make another penny in my life, I would still do this because it's my mission, my purpose, my reason for being. Like that. So many people have a business, but that is true. But then the pressure of, and you flipping have to because you've got to pay the bills, is on top of it. But if you can get yourself just to a place where you can then invest in other things, and property is a great place to do that can then fund and fuel and help, like you said, that was the first thing for you. It's like, right, now that means that the main things are covered. I can then go over here and develop more skills, become more this, that, and the other. So I think your message and what you help people with is so important, no matter what business somebody's in. I think it's like, start paying attention, people, to what else you can acquire in terms of assets, so that the buck doesn't stop with you. Fascinating stuff. I think we're going to have more conversations after this. So if people have been listening and they are keen to find out more from you, want to ask you any questions, we'll put in the show notes, but where should people reach out to you or find you?
Yes, so I'll be I'm usually on Instagram at ML Property Venture, or just find me on LinkedIn, Melissa Lewis.
Amazing. You heard it there, guys. We'll put that in the show notes as well. Thank you, Melissa, so much for coming and sharing your wisdom and your journey with us. I think it's so nice to get under the skin and the real life stories of what people have been through and experienced to get where they are. And I think when you've got that and you've walked the path, you end up creating something so much more powerful. So well done you on everything you've achieved, and I can't wait to see what's next. So I can see it all unfold. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and remember, go out there and shine your light bright, because you were born to be brilliant.